on blast.
And we are live. This is the Wrap It Up on Blast Raps post-game show. As always, my name is Sheldon Alexander, and this episode of Wrap It Up is brought to you by Clean Cuts Barbershop, 2013 Danforth Avenue in the East End of Toronto. Clean Cuts, the multicultural barbers that will always keep you fresh for any and all occasions. So go see Skip and the crew. As a wise man once said,
Tell them that I sent you.
Check them out on Instagram at Clean Cuts Toronto or give them a call, 416-917-4833 to book your appointments now. What a time to be alive, Raptors fans. How are we feeling?
Yes.
Huge shouts to the people tuning in live on Twitter at Shell Alexander, as you do after each and every Toronto Raptors game. Same thing goes for the people tuning in on Instagram, where we take your comments and questions there as well at Sheldon Alexander. Sheldon Alexander on Instagram, Shell Alexander on Twitter. Taking your comments both places. But the big games means I got Mikey here with me as well. Mr. Bellamo, how are you feeling after this game?
Wait, hold on. Let me just put my phone on airplane mode. Guys, see what I did there? Joel Embiid. I'm great, man. Big win. This is what we needed, and it was finally a Toronto Raptors win, not just Kawhi.
What do you mean by that? Expand on that for me.
Everybody played great. You know, I said before the game, I said to you, I even said to one of my buddies, I said, if Danny Green could come out and hit his shots, if Kyle could come out and be energetic, if Pascal can be Pascal of game 1s and 2, and then you add in Kawhi being Kawhi,
Yeah.
I think it'll be a little bit too much for Philly.
Yeah.
It's exactly what we got.
So here's the thing.
Yep.
Toronto Raptors win big in game 5.
40-point lead.
125-89.
Yeah.
125-89. I can't,
No typo.
I can't lie to you. Let me be honest. Before I left work today, before the game was starting,
You were nervous?
I was nervous.
You
And
said that.
I don't know why.
And I've never heard you say that.
Right?
I've never heard you say that. Guys, if you know Sheldon, load management, Alexander, okay? It doesn't matter if the Raptors get beat by 50, you think they're winning the next game. When you said that, you made me nervous.
Yo, one of my friends, she texted me too. She's like, how you feel? I'm like, I don't know. I feel nervous.
Yeah.
She's like, what? You're supposed to calm me down. I'm like, I don't know why. It just made no sense.
Yeah.
And even my boys at work were like, dude, what are you talking about? Why are you nervous? My boy at work, Trizzy, was like, blowout win. And I'm like, dude, I don't know, man.
Yeah.
I don't know. And do you know what it is? As the game was going along, I didn't want to tell you this during the game.
Yeah.
But I figured it out while the game was going on. Do you know what it is?
No.
I couldn't really believe that we're here now and this is actually working to plan. It's like we've watched this with all Toronto teams at certain
And
points.
something
where
goes wrong.
I'm not even saying that something goes wrong. It's just that it's like I need to see it to believe it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Not that I'm waiting for something to go wrong because I get mad at Raptors fans for having that. Raptors fans, Leaf fans, whatever, like waiting for something to go wrong, someone to get hurt, someone
Negative
to do something
vibe, yeah.
dumb, negative vibes. It wasn't even that. Like, I think I was just so nervous that I didn't know what the feeling felt like to have a team with the star player who is by far the best player in the series, if not playing like the best player in the playoffs.
Him and KD.
But then also to have a team that was following his lead. Last game, they just showed up
Defensively.
They took care of business like a big boy, grown-ass team is supposed to do. And I didn't know how to feel because I didn't know how to watch a game like we just watched in which they just took care of business from start to finish. It was a weird feeling, and I didn't know how to feel. And I think that's what was throwing me off. But would you have predicted or even seen a blowout win like this? Or are you kind of just like, no, I'm confident they'll win the game? Or did it even matter to you?
So, for everybody watching, I come by, me and Sheldon watch a game together, and what we said was, when they started creeping in the second quarter and it was a 13, 14, 15-point lead, I said, if we could get this lead big enough, and we both agreed, we said we could see Philly kind of quitting in the second half, right? So I thought it'd be a little bit closer than this, but I did kind of see Philly kind of just tanking it after. I mean, they came out hard in the third, but then there was a couple little plays, Danny Green 3, Marcus Olga 3, and it went back to 20, and then pretty much that was it. And the bench played well in the fourth, what made a 30-point lead to a 40-point lead, which we're not used to.
It doesn't even seem real.
Yeah, everything went right.
There's so many places we could start with this game in a massive win for the Toronto Raptors as they take a 3-2 lead in this series now, heading to Philly for Game 6 on Thursday. But I feel like one place to start is with Joel Embiid, okay? Another game in which Joel Embiid, on game day, it's reported that he didn't go to shoot around this morning because he was dealing with an upper respiratory issue. Lung
infection, supposedly.
Sure.
I mean, now he's
sick.
What's it going to be next game, right?
So Embiid was sick in this game. We obviously know what happened. Same thing in Game 4, where he messaged the coach at 6:30 in the morning to say he doesn't know if he's going to be able to play in that game. He was fine in Game 3. That was the airplane and all that.
Yeah.
But then in Game 2, the game before that, that's the game he had the shits.
Yeah.
So after another game he was probably questionable in Game 1 with his knee. So another game with more Joel Embiid drama. What do you make of the Joel Embiid situation? Just because to me it seems like so crazy, so ridiculous. Yeah. But at this point, it's like, really?
I mean, so the point that you made to Webby after a good Game 3 was, why is Embiid doing this just after Game 3? Yeah. He has done nothing in Games 1 and Game 2.
Yeah.
And I thought maybe this was Embiid coming out party. But you've been right. See, the thing about Philly is there are a handful of great players that all play for themselves.
Yeah.
Right? And I mentioned this to you before. And it just seems that calling your coach or texting your coach at 6 a.m. saying that you can't play on a second round playoff series, that's just about yourself.
Yeah.
Serge Ibaka getting whacked in the head by Kawhi, getting 3 stitches, and coming out and having a monster game is for the team.
Yeah.
That's where the difference lies.
Siakam even, right?
Siakam even, yeah.
It's a great point. Siakam had the calf injury.
Yep.
He was listed as doubtful. You could tell he wasn't 100%.
No, he only had 9 points.
4.
Yeah.
Didn't play well at all.
Yep.
You could tell he was a step slow. No excuses from Siakam.
Nope.
Siakam just comes out, gave what he could, kept quiet. His teammates picked him up. Cool, good to go.
Yep.
Joel Embiid, again, to me, it's just kind of like, we had this conversation earlier today in our show meeting. I was like, how many times do you hear during the playoffs of any sport that someone is sick going into the game? I feel like you don't hear that much in the playoffs. You might hear that in the regular season, the locker room's not doing good, everyone's sick or whatever. You might hear, but you don't hear someone's sick.
Yeah.
That's something that you might hear after the fact, but you don't hear that going into the game. And I found that so weird to me.
What's his diet like? I mean, it's he needs to check Dr. Sebi on
something.
Bro, you have the shits, you got a lung respiratory,
yeah.
I mean, it's not like it's the same thing. I would get it if it's been a stomach ailment.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? If you just can't fight it.
Yeah.
But it's something else. You're not drinking enough fluids. What's going on? I mean, I'll take it. Yeah. I mean, if we can have a Joel Embiid at 40%, perfect for me.
And that was the thing, too, because after Game 4, he said it was a separate issue than what he was dealing with in Game 2. So it's just dude, what do you do? What's going into your body? Yeah. What are you doing to your body in between games? What are you eating? What's going on? And the big reason, as you brought up, after the showboating in Game 3, it's you got to put in work after that. And in this game, another subpar game, 13 points. Some of those were in the garbage time.
Yeah, he made a couple threes, but yeah.
And 13 points from Embiid, that's not ideal. That's not what are you doing? On the flip side,
Gasol.
I kept asking this question: what happens to the Raptors if Kawhi only scores 27? Because he came into this game averaging 38 points on 62% shooting, which is just insane. And my question was, I was kind of worried because what happens if Kawhi only scores 27? Well, in this game, he only scored 21, but he got some help.
Yep.
How big was that for the Raps today, Mikey? And of all the guys that helped Kawhi out today, who stuck out to you the most? Because, I mean, all 5 Raptor starters in double figures.
Yeah.
Plus Serge off the bench in double figures. But who stuck out to you
the most? The obvious answer is going to be Siakam. Played great. A lot of energy. But to me, and I've said this, I just, you might not agree with me, I think it was Danny Green. I think it was getting that production from Danny Green. especially from behind the arc. I think he was 5 of 7, was huge. There was a quote that Coach Brown said that it's hard to double team Kawhi because the Raptors, after the Gasol trade, were the best three-point shooting team in the league.
Yeah.
And so when you double Kawhi, you're always leaving a shooter open, right? And so that's why Kawhi's been going off.
Yeah.
But the Raptors haven't shot as good this series.
They haven't had the Danny Green game yet.
Right? Or even the Marc Gasol game.
Yeah.
So when you get that effect, it's always a bonus, right?
Yeah.
So Danny Green, to me, getting his rhythm back. Also, well, Fred VanVleet. I mean, he didn't blow up the score sheet, but just you could see the confidence was back a bit. Another big.
He looked more aggressive.
Another big game.
And you mentioned Danny Green. Danny Green with 5 threes in this game, 5 of 7 from three-point land for 17 points. And we talked about it, right? The Danny Green game had to come at some point. Because it's math, right? You average a certain shooting percentage over the season. And so if you've been shooting that poorly, the math at some point evens out. And we saw that in this game. Danny Green back to normal. Because as you pointed out, since the trade deadline, the Raptors were leading the league in three-point shooting. And Danny Green was back to just wetting shots. And there's nothing better than watching the chemistry between Kawhi Leonard and Danny Green.
I was just going to say that.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, isn't there just certain points where, like, Kawhi knows what he's going to do
before he gets the ball? Yeah.
It's so good.
Yeah.
And Danny's just splashing in threes. Like, that is, like, Pop's probably somewhere watching that game just, like, smiling, right?
Exactly.
So incredible to see those two guys get it going. But you mentioned Danny Green. I'm going to bring up Kyle Lowry.
Yeah.
Kyle Lowry is the most interesting person in a Raptors uniform. And I always say this, when Kyle Lowry plays horrible, I don't rag on Kyle Lowry anymore because I'm used to it by now, Kyle Lowry having no-show games. Does that mean it's acceptable and I like it? No, of course not. But I just understand that it's going to happen, and you don't really know when it's going to happen.
Yeah.
It just happens sometimes.
Take it when it does.
But what do we talk about for the whole year, Mikey? The two signs that Kyle Lowry has it going early, tough drives to the basket.
And that big, long three.
Deep dagger 3 from Kyle Lowry. And Kyle Lowry early in this game, he took the deep dagger 3, he drove to the basket, and it was like, okay, we got this Kyle Lowry. But to me, going further on that point, he was going downhill. He shot like 4 free throws early in the first quarter, which means that he is being aggressive. And when you get that Kyle Lowry, it's a great thing for the Raptors. And what did that mean? It meant you didn't strain Kawhi early on, which means if it's a close game late, hey, Kawhi's got something in the tank. But
and
it wasn't a close game late, which is even better.
Exactly. You gave it a little bit of rest for Kawhi in the fourth. But also what I noticed, and we talked about it, was Kawhi and Fred are on the floor together, which makes, obviously, 2 smaller guards. But Nick Nurse...
Kyle and Fred.
Sorry, Kyle and Fred, Kyle and Fred were on. But Nurse put out Gasol, Serge, and Pascal.
Yes.
To even up a little bit of the size, right? But you got Kyle and Fred playing well, finding each other. Again, Fred playing really good. And I really liked that move by Nick Nurse, doing those little adjustments. And kind of giving Kyle a little bit of that leader role with Fred on the floor with him.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. And it's just, I feel like all of these things that go wrong sometimes, right? You forget sometimes how much sports is mental just as much as it is physical. And so the struggles that the other Raptors had early, that Kawhi or Nick Nurse or whoever behind the scenes is like, no, Kyle, we need you to be aggressive. We need you to shoot shots. Gasol, we need you to shoot shots and be aggressive. Because it's in there. It's just mentality. And you kind of see, as you pointed out, with Fred, his mentality was a lot more aggressive in this game. It was helped early by just getting a wide open look when they checked in.
And hitting.
Norm on the offensive glass, finding his buddy Freddie, wide open 3, knocks it down. Once you see that go down, it's got to feel like a weight was lifted off of VanVleet's shoulders because he struggled so mightily in this series, in the playoffs. So that was a really good look. But Kyle Lowry, to me, he's still the engine that kind of, like, when he's going, you're going to have a really tough chance at beating the Raptors. And 19 points for Kyle in this game, but effective shooting at 5 of 9 from the floor, 7 of 8 from free throw land, add in 5 assists, 6 rebounds for Kyle.
Driving to the basket.
Doing his thing. And when Kyle is going, Yeah, he hit the ground twice
Yeah.
early on.
Couple and ones.
It's just Kyle Lowry fired up, and when the Raptors get that, it's amazing.
This was a game that the city of Toronto loves and gets under. You got the warrior of Surge coming back.
Yeah.
You know, Kyle diving all around. You got the guy who's been struggling, hitting his first shot in Fred, and the crowd acknowledging it,
Yeah.
letting them know they're behind him.
Yeah.
You got Pascal blocking on one end, going all the way to the other end, almost
Spicy
getting
P
the
seemed
one
healthy.
end, the one exactly. And then you got Kawhi being Kawhi and putting some two nasty dunks
Yeah.
and one poster on Embiid.
Yo.
And it was just a perfect game, and it's where Toronto crowd relishes, and they were good today too.
Yeah.
Jack Armstrong
We
asked
got to give the crowd a lot of credit.
for it, and
Yeah.
you got it.
Yeah. Jack to close out game
Yeah.
4.
Slow clap for you guys.
Yeah, once
Toronto
that game was
crowd.
on ice, Jack started his preaching that
Yep.
he wanted the crowd to show up early, to be in their seats early, to be loud, to
Yep.
be cheering. And I got to give this crowd credit. They were fired up. It sounded
Yeah.
like an old school Raptor playoffs
Yeah.
crowd, just lit. You're hearing it through the TV. They're cheering. The thing that you can tell about a good basketball crowd as well, it wasn't just them cheering after Raptors baskets.
It was.
It wasn't just
after
that.
Everything. Yeah.
It was after everything, but also
Embiid would go out of bounds, put the ball out of bounds, cheer, any little
totally.
things like that.
But
yeah.
also, like, let's say the Sixers hit a shot and it would kind of go quiet for a second, and then the crowd would start cheering to kind of like hype up the
Hype up the
Raps.
crowd,
Like,
yeah.
it's okay, it's okay.
yeah.
And I mean, there were definite moments where it seemed like the roof came off the building, and one of those was going right into half, where Kawhi Leonard,
Just,
I mean, he dunked on the entire Sixers
Oh,
team.
He went through two guys. Oh, buddy.
It was disgusting. It was one of the craziest plays of Raptors
What did
history.
the TNT guy say?
He said that's a man's
dunk."
jam. Right?
Yeah.
But that was one of the biggest plays in Raptors franchise history until Kawhi dunked on Embiid
Embiid, yeah.
late. Was that third
third
quarter?
quarter, yeah.
It was in the third quarter where he spun baseline, and dare I say, someone sent me a text message or tweeted it saying that kind of reminds me of the Jordan dunk in the playoffs on Patrick Ewing.
Yep, when he
And I was like,
turned the other way.
whoa.
Remember, too, Kawhi in the first quarter gave
Oh.
Embiid that little shuffle right there. But, yeah, I mean, Kawhi played amazing.
If you're making a highlight tape of Kawhi just
Even
making
just in
Embiid
this
look dumb,
playoffs.
just
Yeah.
making Embiid look dumb,
Yeah.
yo. But
Sorry, Webby.
there's still a closeout game.
Yep.
Right? There's still a
Yeah,
closeout
guys,
game.
yeah. One more left, as
And-
Kawhi said.
I'll say this. Kawhi did yell as he dunked. There's a great picture online if you guys want to go look it up. There's a great picture online of the Kawhi dunk on Embiid's head top. If you go to Yahoo Sports Canada, it's there with the caption that says "nice for what," and it's I don't want to pronounce my guy's name wrong, but Keyshan, I think his name is. Great photographer in Toronto. But the photo, if you look at it, you see Kawhi screaming as he dunks it over Embiid, and you see the bench reacts start to like creep up, and it's just so incredible. And it sums up the moment, that along with as Embiid checked out,
Yep.
Sixers down 28.
7 minutes left in the game.
7 minutes left in the game. Brett Brown's waving the white flag, and the Raptors crowd is doing Embiid's airplane celebrations.
Classic.
I'm okay with the crowd trolling Embiid,
What goes around comes around. Right?
but I'll say this again. It's game 5. You still got to win one more game, and
Yeah.
you want to take care of business and win in game 6.
Yeah.
You want to win that game. You don't want to leave it to a game 7 at home, which for the record would be Sunday night at 7 p.m.
Yep.
But you don't even want to mess around with that. And the thing that I appreciate the most about this Raptors team, it's a veteran team. And I think they'll understand the need to close it out in game 6,
Yeah.
come out with the purpose, and not even mess around with the game 7.
Yep. Especially if Milwaukee closes it out at home as well,
Yeah.
right? You want to be just as rested as a team you're going to face in the Eastern Conference Finals. Yeah, I mean it's going to be a difficult game. Philly crowd is hostile. They're going to be just as excited as we were for here in Game 5. But I believe in the veteran team that we have, and seeing, especially seeing Danny and Mark and Kyle
Yeah.
playing well, add into the Batman and Robin of what is Kawhi and Siakam. It bodes well for us heading into Game 6.
Well, we talked about the 3-point shooting. Raps were struggling, but they shoot 40% from 3 in this game. And you talked about Danny Green. He went 5 for 7.
Yep.
Kyle Lowry 2 for 5. Gasol 3 for 5. Siakam 2 for 7. Kawhi 0 for 4.
I know. We killed them by
incredible.
40. The biggest
incredible.
Raptors
Playoff win.
playoff win.
Yeah.
And Kawhi played well, but it wasn't a Kawhi game, and he didn't need it.
It's crazy. Kawhi with 21 points on 7 of 16 shooting,
Yep.
13 rebounds, 4 assists, 2 steals. And it's funny, 21 and 13, and we're just like, yeah, that's an okay
And
Kawhi
you know he's
game.
not going to have 2 so-so games. So look out for game 6,
How
right?
incredible is that? We're calling him going 7 for 16 for 21 and
so-so
13,
game.
a so-so game.
Yeah.
That is incredible. And I think that goes back to why I was nervous heading in, because I almost can't believe what I'm seeing.
Yeah.
38 points per game my dude was averaging coming into this, and then now the rest of the team shows up, and it's like, oh, okay, yeah, this is the Toronto Raptors team that we saw for the majority of the season, and especially since Gasol came, right?
Yep.
But if Pascal Siakam is healthy, which it seemed like he was going
Seems like
into
he
this
is.
game, Kyle Lowry and Gasol seem to be,
Energetic and shooting, not deferring as much.
and we're getting solid minutes at least from Serge off the bench.
Yeah.
How key has Serge been off the bench for the Raptors these last 2 games? Just giving scoring, but giving energy and looking like Serge.
Yeah, I saw a little stat. I don't know it off top, but I think 22 points or something like that in the last 2 games.
For Serge, yeah.
Yeah, right? Because he didn't have the best games 1 and 2 as well. But I see Nick Nurse is playing a lot more of, and this is the great old debate that we've been having, especially Jeff Berg on the comments, and all about should Gasol start, should Serge, whatever. But it seems that Nick Nurse is playing them both together.
Yeah.
And it's working.
Yeah.
Because Philly is so big, right? The only small guy they have is JJ Redick, and we get outsized sometimes.
Yeah.
So when you have both of your centers, it's
Yeah.
working, right? And then you got
Totally.
you got Kawhi, or you could have Kyle pushing the ball. But I mean, he played well. He played amazing tonight, and like I said, the warrior aspect of him, because he had a pretty big goose egg, coming out and not complaining like someone else on the other team would,
Yeah.
right? Was a big game for him.
And I'll give Nick Nurse a lot of credit for this, and we'll never really know.
He coached well tonight.
They'll know amongst their game plans and all that.
Yeah.
But I wonder how much the Pascal injury forced them into the Serge and Gasol minutes,
yeah,
or if this was a plan Nurse already knew he was going to roll
one
with,
of his
just to
adjustments.
match the size.
Yeah.
Either way, it's worked. And the problem from the Sixers angle is, which Brett Brown mentioned after the last game.
Yep.
But if the Raptors are going to play Serge at the 4, then Tobias Harris has to win that matchup against Serge Ibaka.
He played
And
well
that's-
tonight.
He
but
did,
in
but
first half.
But he's supposed to, like, Serge is not supposed to be able to guard Tobias
No, yeah.
Harris on the perimeter. And Tobias Harris only coming up with 15 points in this game. That's not enough.
Majority of them in the first half. I think he had 11 in the first half too.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
And, maybe Thursday we'll have Webby on, as that's normally our night of ball on blast, right? Also, Game 6 of the series, which could be a
Would
closeout
Webby
series.
come on if it's a close?
But I have a question for him, right?
Yeah.
And if they go down, if the Sixers go down, and
Yeah.
I know that's looking way
Yeah,
too
it's
far
still
ahead.
a way- yeah,
but the
yeah.
reason why I bring this up is because I look at this box score and I see that Ben Simmons was 3 for 5 for 7 points, and Embiid was 5 for 10 for 13 points. That's your process. Right? Like that's the process.
Yeah.
Those are the 2 guys that you're pinning your whole franchise on, that you tanked all those years for to get Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid,
Yep.
and they're scoring a combined 20 points in a game 5 of the second round.
Yep. And there's a stat I just saw. Game 3, Embiid had 33 points. Rest of series, 52.
Yeah.
Rest of series.
Yeah. It's weird to see what's going on with the Sixers, but it's something that we said all along was they have good players,
Yeah.
but do
They're
they
all out for
have
themselves.
yeah, it's just
Good team
how does
chemistry.
the team fit? And a big part of this that I've always thought was once they got Jimmy Butler's been the one
He's been
putting in
playing
work.
well, yeah.
Jimmy Butler, another
He's
great
been their
game.
best player.
22 points, 7 assists, 5 rebounds for Jimmy Buckets in
Causing
this
the
game.
Raptors trouble.
He's been playing well the whole series, and the problem to me is the process thinks that Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons are their best player, but they're not ready for prime time. Am I wrong there? What do you think? What do you make of Jimmy?
I've been saying this. I said it to Webby after Game 3. I said, "You think
You did
Embiid
say
is the
that.
best player in this series?" But I mean, facts are facts, numbers are numbers. It's been Jimmy,
Yeah,
right?
Jimmy's the best player on their team.
Listen,
yeah.
I hate to use this, but the cliche phrase, but he's playing for a contract. I mean, playoffs are way more than that, but he's playing for a contract.
Yeah.
I don't think that's his motivation, but he's playing well. He's playing himself into a max contract. But you see it's more than that. You could see he's really trying to get his team going and taking over.
Yeah.
And he's giving the Raptors fits.
Yeah.
I mean, every time the Raptors go on a small little run, it's Jimmy that's coming back and hitting them up, right?
Yeah.
I would love to be a fly on the wall and see what the Phillies locker room and see if Jimmy's going ham on them. But I mean, you got to give it to Jimmy. He's been playing well. It's just you're going to get one game Embiid plays well, and then maybe one game Tobias, and it's just they haven't had what the Raptors have had today.
Yeah.
As a full, complete game. I guess Game 3, you can say.
I really want to know what Jimmy Butler is thinking behind the scenes. And he seemed kind of frustrated. I mean, he said all the right things in shoot around this morning with Embiid being sick, but someone asked him, like, what do you think's wrong with him? And he swore at the guy, the reporter. He's like, I'm not a fucking doctor.
Yeah.
Right? Which is true. Fair enough. But it has to be frustrating if you're Jimmy Butler and you're looking around at these guys like, hold on, I came to join your squad. And you guys aren't even here showing up in the playoffs.
Yeah.
And he's been repeating himself over and over again in the post games. He said last game, if Joel's sick, he doesn't care. You're on the court. You went 2 for 7. If you go 2 for 22, I'm riding with you.
Yeah.
He says, I tell Ben, be aggressive every time down the floor. So he wants those guys. He's encouraging those guys. And yet, after each game, we're here saying the same things about what Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid are doing in this game. And dare I say, I feel bad for Jimmy Butler. Does that make sense?
No, yeah. I mean, because, listen, the Philadelphia 76ers have a legitimate shot of playing well, knocking off the Raptors, and going to the Eastern Conference Finals, right? And it's just like, I find it fascinating. It's so weird. It really is. We talked about it earlier, but it really is weird how a professional athlete can be this sick for this long when there's so much they have. Fluids, sauna, IVs.
You're the best doctors.
I mean, man, you could go and have a sauna 45 minutes to an hour and just get all that out. Like, it's just like how he's not taking care of his body is just a reflection on his game right now.
And we thought that, Embiid was getting hit up hard by the American media heading into this game. We were talking off air about the Stephen A. Smith rant about
Stephen A. Smith,
going at him after game 5 about you have 9 hours. How are you calling the coach with 9 hours before game time talking about you haven't slept? Like, you could sleep for 4 hours. You could go to the arena and sleep. How much more is Embiid going to get crushed after this game, like heading into tomorrow? Because it already started at halftime. The clips are everywhere.
Shaq and Kenny were just talking about him right now. I don't know what they were saying, but I'm sure it's something.
Well, Shaq at halftime, one of the quotes he said, I got some cough drops for you, man up.
Yep.
He was also saying, if you want people to remember the process forever, you got to step up. And they're basically saying, like, this is the playoffs. Like, unless something is really, really wrong, and then, like, we're seriously talking about your health, then you shouldn't be playing anyways.
Exactly.
But once you're on the court, let's go.
Put it all out.
And that's what makes those guys, to me, the best, because they're Hall of Famers. So, like, everyone else can have their opinion.
Yeah, they've had sick games.
We're on our couch, right? Like, we're on our couch. Stephen A. Smith's a reporter. But when you're hearing it from Hall of Famers that went out there and played,
and done it.
Or even Kenny Smith, you watched Hall of Famers, you played in NBA big boy games, and you're like, wait, like, how are you? And Barkley made a great point. He's like, when you see Embiid, the energy that he has, just his body language, like the shot of him walking into the arena, like he looks so like down, and it's like you're draining the energy. Like, how's your rest of your team going to be motivated or look to you to rely on you when you look like you're already done?
Sluggish,
And it's like, it makes no sense to me. But
unfortunately, like, I mean, Kawhi has been the story, but this has kind of overshadowed it in a sense, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think the negative talk about what they're doing is gonna it's going to be the big topic in the American media. They're going to talk about the process failing and all that crap. But on the flip side, Raptors fans, this is incredible.
Guys. Yeah.
I mean, Kyle Lowry is playing great. Marc Gasol is playing great. Watching him not turn down threes. I mean, he did the one time.
Yeah.
And Embiid, he sat there for a sec. He was waiting to pass the Serge, and then he just wet the three. But seeing him shoot it with confidence, 11 points for Gasol, 11 and 5 in this game. But Danny Green, 17. Kyle Lowry, 19. Pascal, 25.
Your starters, majority of them all in double figures. It's what you ask for.
And especially the old saying goes, your role players play better at home because they get juiced up by the crowd. They're in their same routine. And your stars carry you on the road.
Yeah.
And you look at the way that this game went, I feel really good about the fact that you didn't really have to use that much of Kawhi. And now you can ride Kawhi to grind out a victory in Game 6.
Yep.
Like Kawhi emptied the full clip in Game 6 in Philly and carry the Raptors home.
Yep.
Hey, if you get anything else from the other dudes, cool. But riding Kawhi, I think, is the key.
And it's only a 2-day break, like right? Pretty much Thursday night. Sometimes we know the NBA can have a 3-day break.
Yeah.
So I mean, the momentum somewhat carries on. I mean, maybe Embiid is still under the weather.
Yeah.
I mean, heading into Game 6, the momentum obviously has to be on the Raptors side.
I haven't gotten to many comments yet, but let's get to some comments before we wrap up. Shouts to the people, as always, on Instagram, chiming in with their comments and questions at Sheldon Alexander, and on Twitter at Shell Alexander. Emma chimes in on Instagram and says, I was at the game. The entire crowd was doing the airplane when Embiid checked out. It was amazing.
Yeah, we saw that. It
First
was
off,
awesome.
Shouts for tuning in to the podcast live
After the game.
while being at the game on your way home. Huge shouts. Appreciate that. More comments. Whoa. I almost just erased the whole thing.
Coach Flores, what up? Big fan of him. He's always on there.
Always in there. Someone else says, remember when Embiid, after beating the Bucks in a regular season game, say that he's the most dominant player in the NBA? What does it matter if you don't show up?
Good point.
The self-proclaimed most dominant
His
player in the NBA.
Get silly sometimes.
Talk is cheap, as they say.
Yeah.
In certain streaks. Embiid's illness is, quote, any excuse not to take responsibility for not stepping up. That's from Glow Girl Smile. Wow. We were talking about Embiid and Simmons not showing up. Simply just Q. Q chimes in on Instagram. What up, Q? Q says, Cat and Wiggins part 2.
Yep.
For Jimmy Butler, you got to be looking around like, what is happening again, right?
Serious. He can't get away from it.
Another comment. James on Instagram says, Kawhi's elbow woke Ibaka up.
Yeah.
In case you missed it early on in the game, going for a rebound. Kawhi came down hard.
Quarter, yeah.
Kawhi came down hard. You notice Serge had the Band-Aid.
With a goose egg.
With a huge goose egg.
Massive goose egg.
They reported that he had 3 stitches.
Yep.
Serge came back, though, and played great. Serge played energy. I think there was a tweet during the game. I don't remember what it said exactly, but I'm paraphrasing, and it was essentially Kawhi literally rubbed off. He's literally rubbed off on Serge. Yeah. As Serge was up faking, driving to the basket, turning down okay shots.
Going to the basket, and his preferred elbow shot. Yeah.
Right? What a time. Another comment. Yo, living in D.C., hearing all this same old Raptors bull bleep. Man, take several seats, sit the F down.
Shots fired.
Fired up. Diversified Youth says they can't match up with the Raps. Do you believe that?
Yeah, the energy was big today.
Because here's the thing. So much talk about the Sixers starting 5, but I've always said this from the beginning. The Raptors starting 5 player for player might not match up to the Sixers, but the key for the Toronto Raptors starters is that there are clearly defined roles.
Yeah.
Siakam and Kawhi cook. Gasol and Lowry help with the ball movement. Danny Green wets threes and plays defense. Yeah. Hella defense. Gasol and Danny Green, they're there playing defense, moving the ball, hopefully getting good shots off of ball movement. Meanwhile, Siakam and Kawhi, you guys cook. The Sixers, again, Jimmy Butler should be the man, but it's Embiid.
So he put it into the post to him.
And, well, they should be.
But yeah.
We talked about it. Yeah. How many times was Embiid shooting threes? And it's just like, what is happening? There was a moment in this game where Danny Green wet a 3, And then Embiid came right down the floor and tried to shoot a three right after.
I know.
And I'm like, is he trying to trade threes right now with Danny Green? Like, what is happening?
There was some weird stuff. I don't know what he was thinking today.
I got a theory for you, and I'd like to get your opinion. Same thing for the people on Instagram and or Twitter or in the comment section. Shouts to our guy Jeff Berg and the leader,
JB,
I want to say, of the
leader
YouTube,
of the YouTube comments for
but
sure.
here's my question, okay? This generation of the NBA and the NBA stars, where guys are a lot of one and done, but also if you go back to high school basketball doesn't really matter. It's about AAU basketball. The reason why this popped in my head was before Game 4 on the weekend, the 30 for 30 was on TV about Felipe Lopez, and he was like a highly touted guy. He was about the same class or the same year as Allen Iverson, right? But he was like an amazing New York City high school basketball legend. But in this doc that I was watching before the Raps game, he was talking about, oh, my only goal was to win a state championship and win the city championship and blah, blah, blah. And it's like now with this generation, high school basketball doesn't matter. It's about AAU basketball, which is about stats.
Yeah.
Then you have guys going to college for 1 year. Think Ben Simmons, think Embiid. Embiid hurt for that season. Wiggins even. Towns, right? And then think of Ben Simmons. Ben Simmons didn't even get his team to March Madness.
Yeah.
Right?
Remember that.
So you have these guys go for 1 year. They know they're only going for 1 year. Winning doesn't matter. And then now you get into the NBA when it's all about
does
winning.
Matter.
And then now you get in these big moments where the stakes are higher and they don't have the next gear to get to in winning time. We've seen Kawhi's numbers go up, and I'm not even saying that Kawhi was like a crazy college player or anything, but I'm saying the majority of people don't have the next gear because winning hasn't always been the most important thing. So Kawhi coming in early, playing with the Spurs, you see the difference between regular season, playoffs.
He also was
Go
under
up
the
a gear.
tutelage of Pops in them too as well.
That's
but
what I'm saying, for sure. But then you have like Embiid and Simmons, and they're used to, hey, I'm on Instagram during the regular season. I'm here. I'm lit.
Yep.
I'm that dude.
As long as I get 33 and 12, it doesn't matter if my team wins, right?
But then playoff time comes, and now everything's ratcheted up. You got to hit that other gear, and they don't have it.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that's a thing? Do you think it goes back to like just not really valuing winning throughout your career, and then now you get to the NBA, and it's like,
I mean, with some people,
where's Ben Simmons?
Kobe came out of high school. Kobe's one of the most clutch players, right? Mm-hmm. Anything is possible. Kevin Garnett, high school, right?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, you're seeing a lot of one and dones. LeBron, we could go on as well.
For sure.
But I think it's more in the personality of Embiid and Simmons. I don't want to characterize them in because of the one and done. You know what I mean? So it's going to be interesting to see because next year we're going to have Zion, and we're going to see if he has the same attitude as that, or if he can play harder. And right. So.
Like Coach Los Flores pops in and says, could be a thing, but they're both relatively young in their careers. Totally true, and they are pretty young in their careers. And you mentioned Kobe and LeBron. Remember, they had growing pains early too, right? Kobe had the back-to-back air balls early on against the Utah Jazz, and then he had to learn how to win under Shaq and Phil Jackson. Same with LeBron. We know LeBron's story is well documented about taking L's in the playoffs early on in his career, and he had to learn how to win. And you see that it might be the same thing for the process, right? Like we're already crowning the process, and you're seeing these guys aren't ready for prime time.
So who would you say is a college player that stayed longer than the 1 year that maybe showed in his first couple years, besides Kawhi, that can maybe back that up?
Well, I know what you're saying. I know what you're saying in the sense that Kawhi had pop, and that's huge. And I think that part matters so much. Like the situation that you go into, because, you know, who's the vet that's telling Embiid anything? Like Jimmy Butler just got there halfway through the season, and we know coming off of what Jimmy Butler went through in Minnesota, it's not like he's going to come right into this locker room and try to tell these guys about themselves, right? But who's the vet to tell Embiid, like, yo, bro, this is unacceptable.
Yeah.
Like all this sick talk
Amir
and all
Johnson,
that.
Like, nobody really.
Right? And like you go back to a guy like Vince, how key Vince will tell you,
Kevin
anyone
Willis,
around will
Charles
say
Oakley.
exactly.
Yeah.
Those guys were huge for him early in
Yeah.
his career. Kevin Garnett's another guy. He'll tell you he had Sam Mitchell, and I'm forgetting who the other guy was for KG. But he had his vets that taught him how to practice, how to be a professional.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that we don't really see as much in the NBA. Whereas before it was a trend where you would keep those like 12 or 13th spot on the roster for a vet. But now, no, it goes to the younger players, right?
Yeah.
Your D-League guys or whatever. And this is a series where the Raptors' veteran presence, you mentioned Kawhi being there, Danny Green being there,
Yep.
Gasol being through battles,
Yep.
Serge, Kyle. Those are all vets.
It outshined the Phillies.
It's crazy, right?
Nope.
But to me, that's
Yeah.
a difference in the series so far. The Raptors starters are vets. They're able to be like, oh shit, this is what we need to do.
Mm-hmm.
We need to hit that other gear and step up. Philly can't do that.
That's different for us because the previous Raptors,
Yes.
I mean, go
Yes.
back the last 4 years, it's usually been we're on the other spectrum.
Yeah. Q chimes back in and says, definitely most of them ain't going to do much in college when it comes to winning or making the tournament. Also, there's no veteran leadership to teach them how to be pros.
Besides their coach, but yeah.
Another comment, Zion wants the ball in moments of need. I think he has that drive to take over.
Yeah, Zion might be the one.
Yeah, Zion is a problem. So good. But again,
Yep, big
huge
win.
shouts to the Toronto Raptors. Big win as they close this one out 125-89. 125-89.
89.
I'm going to say that again because it sounds so good. And I can't believe it. Raptors up 3-2. I can believe that.
Yep.
Hey, Raptors in 6 is still alive. That was the prediction heading into the series.
Exactly.
And I didn't expect them to go down 2-1. I didn't expect Kawhi to average 38 points per game going
Yep.
into game 5. I definitely didn't expect the Raptors to win game 5, 125-89, but hey, here we are.
And that's with Kawhi only having 21 points. Big, full Raptors win.
Raptors lead the series, and there's a bunch of people here asking Webby
Yeah.
who's the best player in the series. Guys, let's not do what Embiid did. The series isn't over
Yeah,
yet.
yeah.
It's only 3-2,
Yep.
right? You're heading back to Philly. You need to take care of business.
We'll talk to Webby on Thursday.
We'll call up Webby on Thursday,
And we'll either be
figure
going
it
to Game
out.
7 or the series will be done.
But in the meantime, I'm gonna probably be watching Kawhi Leonard highlights on replay,
Yeah.
on repeat, because that was just absolutely incredible. Shouts to the Raptors fans for bringing the energy and
big
being
show.
hype. Shouts to Kawhi for not having monster points, but monster moments in this game. And of course, the Raptors supporting cast. And you know what? I'm going to thank my supporting cast, you, Mr. Bellamo,
Yes.
for joining me as well on this episode to wrap it up. Mikey, where can the people find you if they want to comment and hit you up in between the games?
Yep. YouTube comments, like I said, we always try to get to them, read them. Hit me up on Instagram, MikeBello_6. Hit me up, guys.
I just want to point this out because shouts to my dude, Matt Lowe. Matt Lowe is one of our editors at Sportsnet.
Yep.
Good dude, but he said, Sheldon, you said after game 3 that the Embiid airplane celly would be used to mock him, and now it is. You are the Bran Stark of this series, which is a Game of Thrones reference. I would agree with that, except I think Bran is the lamest part of this season of Game of Thrones, and I wish he would get out of here. But I appreciate the compliment. Shouts to you, Matty Lowe. Austin says, love how Gasol is matching Embiid's minutes. Another great adjustment by Nick Nurse that you pointed out off the air, just about how you notice now when they sub out Embiid, Gasol subs out right after, and they're
Yeah.
clearly matching the minutes. And I'm going to give another game of Gasol outplaying Embiid, and that's now 2 straight games of Gasol blatantly outplaying Embiid on the stat sheet. And I would argue the other 2 games, he outplayed him just in terms of gameplay because
1 and
Embiid's
2.
supposed to score
Yeah.
big time buckets, and he didn't. So Embiid basically
He's had one good game.
during the
Yeah.
regular
I was
season,
trying to think of the
Embiid
stat off the
struggled.
top of it. Yeah.
Embiid struggled against Gasol as
Gasol,
well,
yeah.
even when Gasol was on the Grizzlies. Embiid's
yes,
stats
yes.
were always terrible against Marc Gasol. I'm pretty sure he averaged like 10 less points per game
Yes, was it? Yeah.
against Gasol, and I want to say like 5 games
Yeah.
against Gasol previously. So the trend continues. Someone points this out on Twitter as well. Danny Green in an interview said that they practice a lot with the big lineup, Serge and Gasol. So yeah, shouts to Nick Nurse making that adjustment.
Big adjustments.
Practice makes perfect, as the kids say. One comment, remind me of the look Kyrie had when we bust their heads open last time in Toronto. I guess that's all the shots. If you see, you'll see it on Instagram. There's a lot of shots of Embiid looking salty and Brett Brown's reactions on the TNT feed, not on the Raptors feed, not on Sportsnet feed. But there's a lot of shots of Brett Brown looking hella depressed.
I would be too.
Hella salty. On the flip side, Raptors fans.
Raptors are
hella
good.
happy. Big time win. Again, 125-89. Raptors take a 3-2 lead. Look to close it out Thursday night in Philly. Hopefully Kawhi Leonard has a big boy game for that as the Raps look to advance to the conference finals for the second time in franchise history. What a time to be alive indeed. My name is Sheldon Alexander. Thank you for tuning in. If you are on Twitter at Shell Alexander or on Instagram at Sheldon Alexander. Really appreciate the comments and questions along the way. Thank you guys so much. Really appreciate that. And of course, if you're unable to catch the podcast live, or if you tune in the middle of it and you want to catch it from the beginning, full podcast ends up on SoundCloud, iTunes, Google Play, and of course on YouTube. Just look up
the community.
Just look up On Blast Podcast. Thank you. Really appreciate you guys liking, sharing, subscribing,
Smash
all
that like
fun
button.
stuff. As Mikey says,
Smash that like button.
we really appreciate it. Thank you guys so much. I tried to get to as many comments as I could, but as mentioned, the conversation will continue in the comment section in between now and the next game. So the show is only about 40 minutes to an hour or something, but the conversation to wrap it up continues 24/7, all day, every day in the comment section. And trust me, guys, I say this all the time and I don't take it for granted. I feel blessed that all you guys have tuned in and are now along for the ride on this, the best season in Raptors franchise history. And Kawhi, no doubt, the best player in Raptors franchise history. This run hopefully will continue Thursday night. Tune in. My name is Sheldon Alexander, and I always used to pray for times like this
to rhyme like this.
This is the Wrap It Up on Blast Raps post-game show. As always, unpolished and unapologetic. Until next time, see ya.
Peace.